Because I think the beautiful thing about what God is teaching us through this particular story and our expectation is that the suffering that we sometimes experience that causes us to be disillusioned isn't about us. Paul's story isn't about Paul. Paul's story is about the kingdom of God being made available and accessible to all people that God has cared about, all people that God is going to continue to care about, all people in this city that we encounter. There is an invitation here for the people to not worship a version of themselves and what they assume to be God's, but there's an invitation to worship the true God, because he sees them for who they truly are. He sees them as his children. He wants them to find a place of intimacy in a way that's far better than any answer he could provide to these important, thoughtful questions we may have. That's exciting to me. It's exciting that some of this big story that we want to be a part of so strongly, that seems so innate, actually makes sense. But it makes sense not in the way that I would construct. It makes sense not in a way that I would expect a God to be. It makes sense in a far better way. It makes sense because as we continue to read, we know what the kingdom of God is like because of what Paul is revealing through his own experience. He says these words in verse 22. He says, we must go through many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. Now, you have to have context for what he's saying. He's not saying it's hard to get into the kingdom of God. What he's saying is that suffering produces the kingdom of God. That your burden, your difficulty, your disillusionment, your doubt, your fear, your failed expectations produce the kingdom of God. Produces the kingdom of God because we are a group that continues to make disciples. We continue to live his story, to bear his burden for the sake of others being able to know that he's the one that ultimately saves them. He's the one that ultimately gives them life. The kingdom of God isn't just a place. The kingdom of God is a state of being, and it's here, and it's now, and it's alive in this room.